the US election is in full swing. Countless Americans are eagerly awaiting the emergence of a new president. Europe, on the other side of the Atlantic, also paying close attention to the election results, worried about the direction of US-EU relations. But a recent article on European Politico revealed the embarrassing situation in Europe today. No matter who takes office, Trump or Harris, Europe has become the biggest loser. Why do you say that? As we all know, since the Marshall Plan, the relationship between the United States and Europe has become closer. The United States provides infrastructure and loans for European countries to rebuild and established NATO to counter the Warsaw Pact headed by the Soviet Union. So for a long time, Europe is following in the footsteps of the United States in many ways, in exchange for economic security support. This also keeps US-European relations stable for a long time, especially in the early 1990s. The United States and Europe have established a prosperous transatlantic relationship. The economies of both parties have also become the world's leaders. Over time, the importance the United States attaches to Europe begins to decline and continue to focus on the Asia-Pacific region. Among them, the most noteworthy thing is undoubtedly the situation of the garrison. Although the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is still ongoing, but the Biden administration only adds 20,000 troops to Europe, a total of 80,000 people, distributed in 10 different countries. The number of troops stationed in the Asia-Pacific region has reached 346,000, more than 4 times that of Europe. Even American think tanks have made suggestions. Call for global evacuation of the United States. Deploy more energy to the Asia-Pacific region. The article also predicts the prospects of the Russia-Ukraine issue. Once Trump takes office, it is bound to promote negotiations between Ukraine and Russia to end this war as soon as possible. In this way, the previous huge investment by European countries will be used to draw water from a bamboo basket. At the same time, it will be impossible to enjoy Russia's cheap energy, even if Harris takes office. Although we will continue to provide support to Ukraine, but it is difficult to attach as much importance to European security issues as Biden does. He would end the war by getting Russia and Ukraine to reach some agreement. In addition to the military level, the United States is also accelerating the flight of manufacturing industries from Europe. Since the Nord Stream pipeline was bombed, Europe faces a severe energy crisis, a huge blow to European manufacturing. Many companies are fleeing Europe. The United States has provided many incentives for manufacturing and green energy, attracting investment from many European companies. Under the operation of the United States, Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen and many other car companies have established factories in the United States, also considering closing factories in Europe. Such an operation, Europe has to be forced to accept the process of deindustrialization. This is a huge blow to the development of the country. While evacuating Europe, the United States also sees Europe as a competitor in many areas. Just like in 2021, France has already reached a submarine contract with Australia. However, the order was lost due to the joint intervention of Britain and the United States. Last year, the United States took away many battery manufacturers from the EU through clean energy subsidies. This series of actions made European countries angry but helpless. What worries them even more is Trump's coming to power. Once Trump takes office, it will cause an even greater blow to US-European relations. France and several other countries have begun to consider formulating an independent European security policy. During the general election, Trump has repeatedly promoted his tariff policy. The policy targets more than just China. It also includes allies like the European Union. Recently, he once again described the issue in detail. EU goods exported to the United States need to. A tariff of 10% to 20% is levied. Not only that, he is also dissatisfied with the trade deficit between the United States and the European Union. The EU doesn't buy our agricultural products. They are a mini China. A huge price must be paid for this. This situation has made many EU countries worried about the development of US-EU relations. Therefore, they hope that Harris can become the president of the United States. But for now, Harris doesn't seem to pay much attention to Europe either. His focus is still on the Asia-Pacific region. The shift in the focus of the United States did not just start in the past 2 years. Since Obama announced his return to the Asia-Pacific strategy, the United States continues to pay less attention to Europe. Even many departments of the US government like to use Asia-Pacific affairs to pursue their own interests. As Galland, a Frenchman who wrote Kissinger's autobiography, said, many politicians in the US elite are now more willing to develop relations with Spanish-speaking and Asian countries. There are very few people who have close ties with Europe. Based on this situation, many countries in Europe have begun to consider, after the United States completely withdraws from Europe, How European countries should maintain European security. Among them, France is undoubtedly the most active. They have stated in public more than once, Europe must take control of its own destiny. European security cannot be left to the quadrennial elections, but for now, France's appeal is hard to get other countries to, especially recognized by the Nordic and Eastern European countries. In the view of these countries, France's proposal is to become the leader in European security affairs and work with Germany to bring other countries to their knees. So if the United States really withdraws from Europe, the end result will be a chaotic situation where each individual is fighting against the other. This means that Europe is in a lose-lose situation. The situation has lost its dependence on the United States. The EU is likely to end up falling apart. Continuing to maintain relations with the United States still cannot change the fact that Europe is increasingly ignored by Washington. Moreover, the situation of the United States grabbing EU business will become more and more serious. The reason why Europe has fallen to this point, a very key reason, is their long-term dependence on the United States. When encountering a problem, the first thing that comes to mind is to seek help from the United States and want to establish good relations with American leaders. Stable long-term relations between Europe and the United States. But when faced with leaders like Trump and Biden who are more concerned with their own interests, Europe will naturally become the ultimate loser. There is an old Chinese saying that the mountain that has its backing will fall. Water will flow. It is a perfect word to describe the current situation in European countries. Only by maintaining the independence and self-reliance of the country, only then will China Airlines be able to sit firmly in the increasingly competitive international environment, because it's difficult to go very far if you rely on asylum from other countries. But for now, the United States will not completely give up on Europe. It's just how the relationship between the two parties develops that deserves further attention.